The month is not over. And this month, how many signings have you done?
So far, it's 163.
You've done 163 closings in 3 weeks. How does that make you feel about how far you've come on your signing agent journey?
Excited, very excited. I feel like I could do double that.
Oh man, another episode of On the Road with the Loan Signing System. Here is signing agent Liz out in the great state of Nevada. How you doing today, Liz?
Doing great, thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. By the way, thank you so much for doing this. It's been too long since I've done one of these, so I'm super excited about having people be inspired by your story. So let's just get this bad boy going, girl. Can you tell everybody we are March 2022? The month is not over. In this month, how many signings have you done?
So far, it's 163.
163 signings basically in three and a half weeks of this month. When I say that back to you, that you've done 163 closings in 3 weeks, how does that make you feel about how far you've come on your signing agent journey?
Excited, very excited. I feel like I could do double that.
That is insane. I love it. I love it. So Liz's story is amazing because this is not an overnight success story. She did not do that. This is not her second month in the business, and she's doing 160 plus closings. How long have you been in the business? How long have you been a loan signing system student? I don't even know. I think how long? A year and a half?
I started with my first signing in November of 2020, but I took the course in October of 2020.
Okay, so you've about 2 years basically. So this is great. So this story is not an overnight success story. We're going to talk about your journey, talk about what made you stay perseverance, what made you stay persistent with that. But before we get into all that, I think you've seen a few of these, Liz. So, I kind of ask the students, to kind of take us back on your story to make other people out there feel like they're not alone. Like everyone has their unique journey on how they got to where they are today. So if you don't mind, kind of let's just talk through your journey to inspire others that like no matter where you are, you can end up being an amazing signing agent like Liz. So break it down, girl, if you don't mind sharing and tell that people know where you've come from to come to this point in your journey.
Sure. So I guess I kind of started searching for something else. When I was 30, I filed for divorce. And during that process of going back and forth, I ended up staying with the majority of the debt, which was about 200,000 in debt.
So hold on. So at 30 years old, you got a divorce. Thank you for being vulnerable, by the way. And not only did you have such a life-changing moment of a divorce, on top of that, you were left with $200,000 of debt at 30 years old. Did I hear that right?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So, I mean, take someone else through that because my guess is you're not the only divorcee to kind of have the debt being attached to that separation. I mean, how'd that make you feel? Kind of talk me through that.
During that time, I guess I was still in a little bit of denial. At the time I was bartending, so I was making very good money here at the Vegas Strip. And I thought that I could pay that off during with just some time. But then I realized I went from a swing shift to an overnight shift. So my income got cut in half. It wasn't as busy anymore. And I ended up deciding to do bankruptcy to get rid of that debt because there was no way I was going to be able to pay that off on my own.
Real quick, I mean, 30 years old, making the decision to file a BK. Talk me through the feelings, right? I mean, how did you feel at that moment where you're like, okay, like there was a moment where you're like, wow, I cannot afford to pay this off. Like I can't. Like, was that heavy? Was that scary? I mean, talk about some of your feelings if you don't mind. Because the reason I'm asking, Liz, is to help someone else right now who might be literally in that position. And I want them to know that there's a light at the other side of that tunnel.
Yeah, I was completely overwhelmed. It was just so much money. I was stressed out. I actually tried to call the creditors and see if they could help me out by like letting me skip some payments or lowering my minimum. And they they wouldn't help me out. And at the time, like I said, my pay got cut in half. I went to an overnight shift, so I wasn't making enough to make ends meet. I had my condo, which I ended up letting go in foreclosure. And at the time, I had moved in with my sister to kind of help her out because she was having a new baby, and kind of help myself out because of my bills and everything. So it was just really stressful, and I couldn't deal with having to make all these payments with my income being so low at the time. So I just decided to let it all go.
I thank you again. I mean, the fact that you had to, I mean, it's crazy that you're 30 years old. I'm 44. So, I mean, 30 is, I feel that we're so young at 30 and wow, okay, I just got to make a decision to BK. I'm sure that wasn't made lightly, but the fact that you had to foreclose on your home and also decide to do a BK, that must have been a pretty difficult decision.
Yeah, it definitely was, but there was no other way out at
Mhm.
the time. There was no way I was going to be able to pay it off. So I did have a good support system with my family, and they were all there to kind of help me out during that
Mhm.
process. But it was a good decision for me at that time.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you for sharing that because, like I said, you're probably not the only person who kind of experienced that. So you decide to BK
Mhm.
and to move on. Liz, I'm moving on. I'm moving forward. Take us through kind of the next few years after that. I kind of know your journey. You shared it with me, but I think it's a really inspiring story to get where you are today, doing 160 plus closings on your own in your signing agent business. So, what kind of happened after that? That journey of I made BK, made the decision. I'm going to do it. Walk me through kind of the next few years.
Yeah, so after that, it was just kind of a completely, because I got married, or was dating my ex-husband when I turned 21, and then we got married and then divorced when we were 30. And after that, I just didn't know really where I was going. So I ended up moving around a lot. I lived in Puerto Rico, Miami, West Palm Beach. I during that process as well, I had many jobs. I've had in my lifetime over 40 jobs. So just kind of always looking for something new, a new adventure, finding out where I fit in, finding something that fulfills me. And I've had a great life. I've had great experiences, but at the same time, it was time to kind of grow up and get a job and be responsible and pay my bills and start building something for the future, because I'm not going to be young forever. And like I said, I had a great life, but it was time to kind of buckle down. But I was always searching for something. Usually, when I hit around the 2 year mark at a job, if I'm not growing, I need to move on.
Yeah, no,
So
I appreciate that. So, what I heard was I found someone who's just kind of finding themselves after divorce, trying to find that job or area where life takes you. How many jobs did you say you had in the past?
in my lifetime, 40.
40. So you're always searching for that. And so now you've been a signing agent for 2 years. We're going to get to that amazingness in a moment. But again, I appreciate you kind of sharing your journey of like, I've always been looking for something that's fulfilling and going through that journey with somebody. And so, what I also heard though, Liz, at the same time of that is, someone who needed to grow up. Right. And again, thank you so much for being so vulnerable. Because I think your story is going to resonate with a lot of people as, you're going from job to job to job and trying to find something that you, to use your words, fulfilling. Um, it must have been interesting going through, the next 8 7 8 years after your divorce, trying to figure out where that is. And so it led you kind of to finding being a signing agent. So, kind of talk through that, right? Just got out of debt being BK. Talk about kind of like where you were as far as debt while you were going through your job and finding yourself and something fulfilling.
Yeah. So after that, I wasn't making as much money as my other jobs as I was being a bartender in Vegas. So I kind of just used those credit cards to rebuild my credit, max those out. And when I got into a situation where I couldn't pay those, I kind of let those go again. So those went to collection. And I just saw myself going back into the same cycle, which I wasn't happy with. I didn't want to go back down that road and have to rebuild, because I had just finished doing the BK, and over $200,000 in debt got forgiven during that BK. And I just wasn't going to do it again for small credit cards. If I didn't have to reset my whole life again, I wasn't going to do it. So I just kind of buckled down, got a few jobs where I was able to make ends meet, decided to move back to Vegas to be close to family. And I was at a job here that was paying me well. I was in a management role, but I wasn't fulfilled. So by the time I got back to Vegas after my world tour, I ended up getting $60,000 in debt with just my credit cards and student loans and everything like that. So I was here in Vegas working at a job that I was not happy with, in a management role that didn't pay me enough, working 10-hour days. And at the time I was living at my mom's house just to barely be able to get by. And then a friend of mine asked me about notarizing something, and that's kind of how I came across the whole loan signing system.
Oh, I love it. Well, again, let me just say thank you so much for being vulnerable. I mean, what I heard was, you found yourself going back into kind of that cycle of, okay, I'm debt free, but all of a sudden I woke up one day and I'm $60,000 in debt, I think you said. And that must have been another set of wave of emotions and feelings, because again, there's probably someone who can relate to your part of your story of like, okay, I got debt free, however they did. And then they just found themselves back in that cycle of debt again. And so, when you decided to move back home and to like what you said earlier, kind of grow up, what was that feeling when you woke up one day and realized, man, I'm $60,000 in debt, but I was just debt free X amount of years ago? Like, what was those feelings like?
It was a bit overwhelming. Just kind of, I mean, I know that it's my own actions that got me back to that one place, but I'm, like I said, I've had a good life. I've had experiences, so I don't regret a lot of that, but I needed to make better choices. It was just overwhelming, and not being able to see how to get out of that at the job that I was at. There was potential to grow with the company, but I just didn't like the company anymore. And I didn't like the job that I was doing. We didn't align anymore. And I was ready to go back and work as a bartender and make some money. And then the whole COVID-19 thing happened. So that plan got derailed.
Liz, thank you so much for sharing your story. The fact that you kind of just woke up one day, $60,000 more in debt. And to your point, look, you lived a good life, but at some point you got to figure out, well, like, what's the next step? I'm 60K in debt. Can I ask, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but I know your story. It's going to ask, since you became a signing agent, how much of that $60,000 is paid off?
All of it.
Ah! All of it. And the best part is this is the biggest smile I have seen since we started the conversation. It must feel so good that you can say I've paid off all the debt.
Yes, it definitely does. I have enough money saved for an emergency fund, connecting with a lot of different people that are in better situations than I am. So I'm learning a lot, investing, and just growing every day.
I'm so proud of you. Before we move on to kind of your signing agent journey, you've been very vulnerable today. If and so I want to ask you, like, if there's someone else watching right now who's $60,000 in debt, $200,000, okay, someone who just BK'd, someone who just got out of a divorce, what I think so inspiring about your story is any of those things could have broken you down, quote unquote. Any of those things could have made you play victim. Any of those things could have, made you go like the opposite direction of than where you are today, which is up, 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 and up. What would you say to someone to help them through that period, right? Because like you said, there was moments where you were overwhelmed. I've been overwhelmed. That's not a good feeling. So how did you work through those feelings? What can you say to inspire somebody else, Liz, who might be going through some of those emotions you did when you woke up one day 60 grand in debt, or woke up one day with $200,000, or woke up one day saying, I'm going to BK? What would you do to inspire someone and help them through that moment that helped you? Because I think it's inspiring that none of those moments knocked you down, right? They didn't keep you down is what I should say. They knocked you down and you got back up. What would you say to help someone else with their journey, and letting them know that they can do this and they can get through it?
I would just say, just move forward. Like, your only other option is giving up, and then what's going to be your life? Like, it already sucks. Like, you could only go forward. Like, just get up, find a way to make it out of that situation. And doing the loan signing system, if I would have known about this 10 years ago, I probably wouldn't have gone on my world tour. I probably would have just stayed and worked and found a way out of it. I don't think I was mature enough at that time to do it, but yeah, like, you can't just give up. There's other options. And even now I think about it, like, if everything stopped and I never got another signing, like, what am I going to do? I could turn around and go get a job and rebuild again. I have more knowledge now. I could make money no matter what situation I'm at. Is it going to be hard? Yes. Am I going to probably live in a place where I don't want to live and have to cut back? Yes. But you make those sacrifices to get to where you want to be.
I love it. I mean, don't give up. I love that. I love that you realize that, if this went away tomorrow, you can rebuild. And I think that's the insight that I wanted to show is like, I always tell you students, success as signing agent is 20% about the X's and O's. It's 80% about mindset. It's 80% about believing you can do it. It's 80% about understanding that you got to get through a couple of no's to get to a yes. And I love that people are seeing that your journey. What I think is really cool too, Liz, is the maturity that you said of like, I maybe wasn't ready 10 years ago for my own business like this. And we're going to get to your journey of, 10 signings in a day, but it takes the right frame of mind, the right mindset. And I think everything led you to this moment, like all those trials and tribulations before you become a signing agent has led you to become an amazing business owner. And so to your point, it's all those experiences as part of your world tour, as you call it. By the way, a little envious of your world tour. And so, but I think it's cool that, you can rely on some of those experiences you had. The fact that you had 40 jobs in your adult life, 40 jobs plus, is just made you for the moment of like, I'm never going to settle until I find that thing that makes me fulfilled. And I think you found that thing that makes you fulfilled. Am I kind of close?
For sure. Yes. 100%.
I love it. So let's talk about that thing. Okay. So
Right.
I love, your journey. And so, let's talk about your signings, right? It's March 26th right now. So, we have about 5 more days in this month. You're probably going to hit 175 closings is my guess, something like that crazy by yourself, not farming this out to anyone else. This is all you. But let's say you go through that journey. That's my point though. So my point is this, is you weren't one of those students that burned the barn down the first month, the second month. So let's take people through your journey that you started a couple years ago. So how many signings did you get your first month in the business?
2.
2.
2 signings. That's because I was forced.
Yes, 2. Okay.
2.
So month number 2, how many signings you get in the business?
20.
20. The third month in the business, how many signings did you get?
12.
12. And the fourth month in the business, how many signings you get?
40.
Okay. So first off, I think that's a beautiful journey. Sorry, so many things I want to say. I'm like, okay. So the first thing I want to say is, 2 signings in your first month.
Mm-hmm.
We have some students who will do 2 signings in the first month and throw their hands up and quit and be like, this business isn't for me. What would you say to a student who did 2 signings their first 30 days, 45 days, whatever? How come you didn't give up after the first month?
I was scared to do the 2 signings the first month. After I did my first signing, I didn't want to take a second because I was still nervous, but it didn't take me till like 40 signings before I was comfortable. So 2 signings is nothing. It's not enough to quit if you haven't experienced enough yet.
Right. Experience is our best teacher. I tell all you students, I can get you ready for the dance, but sometimes dancing is the best thing that's going to help you with learning the dance steps. Mm-hmm. But what I heard is 2 signings, you didn't quit. Then I heard you did 20 closings. Then I heard you drop down to 12. Mm-hmm. We have some students, the sky is falling if the month is not as good as the month before. Trying to get into a mindset of someone who does 170 closings a month by themselves. Why didn't you quit after the 3rd month where you went up, up, down, almost a 50% drop, by the way, 20 to 12 is almost 50%. And then you went back up to 40, but why didn't you quit, right? I want the mindset, because I think some people, Liz, see you and go, oh, she's doing 175 closings. She must have had it so easy. And I'm like, no, these successful signing agents are not giving up. They're persevering. Why didn't you get mad at like, oh, interest rates are too high. Oh, there's too many signing agents. Oh, what was your mindset when you dropped down to 12 in the 3rd month? Why didn't you give up?
So January, the month I did 12, that was actually my first month of being full-time as well. So I didn't have my paycheck either. So when
hold on, that's crazy. So you just quit your job.
Yeah.
And you only did 12 signings. Yeah. To me, it would make sense that maybe you would panic a little bit, right? Like, I just totally quit my job. I had 20 signings, 12. I had 20 signings, so I'm going to quit. This is going to go like gangbusters. And then that first month you go full time, you only have 12.
Yeah.
Again, I'm trying to get in the mindset because I want you to inspire someone else who had the same journey, right? We have students who are like 3 months in the business, the 3rd month's not as good as the 2nd month. Why didn't you quit? Like, why didn't you just take me through that?
I kind of just sat there and I looked at my calendar and I'm like, okay, maybe I'm going to have to get a part-time job to help me out. But then I'm like, wait a minute. Are you doing everything that Mark told you to do? Am I marketing? Am I signing up? I hadn't called one signing service. I was only registered with Ashley Signing Service. And I'm like, okay, am I registered for anyone? No. Am I marketing? No. I hadn't done absolutely nothing. I was literally just sitting there waiting for Ashley to text me that she had a signing for me. At the time, I didn't know that that was the slowest month. So I was like, okay, I only have 12 signings. So I need to go out there and market and push myself. So that's what I did. It was my fault that I wasn't getting anything. No one knew that I was a loan signing agent except for Ashley. So yeah, it was kind
I
of.
literally want to start crying. I'm not even joking. Like, because what makes me so happy, and I hope everyone just heard you, like, it was my fault I only did 12. What I also heard was nobody else knew I was a signing agent except for the signing service that was using me. Again, accountability. Like, how can a title company use me if I haven't got my name out there? How does a realtor use me if I'm not reaching out to realtors? And I hope everybody heard you on that, because I thought that was beautiful. Like, honestly, I almost want to start crying. Like, because accountability is what makes anything go around, right? It's like, I'm not losing weight. Well, you're going to the gym 5 days a week, right? Or, my relationship's not that great. Well, are you trying to work on it? So it's always this, if it's something's happening, it's my fault. And I love that instead of saying, oh, it's the market's fault, oh, I'm not getting enough business, it's like, I'm not doing everything Mark taught us. I'm not telling everybody what I need to do. I'm so proud of that. Like, I have no idea like how that makes me feel, because that's all I want from you students. And when you realize that your results are because of your actions or lack thereof, is when everything changes. Because you're at 175 signings or 163 signings because of your actions. You should take credit for that too. It's like both sides, right? I want you guys to cheer yourself when you're putting in the mass action, but also when you're not getting the results, have enough accountability and be like, maybe that's my fault. Yeah, maybe I'm not working hard enough. Maybe I'm not marketing well enough. And so, man, I hope everybody just heard that. It was my fault I only got 12. I'm gonna end the interview. Okay, it's good talking to you. Bye. So I mean, it's like, so let me ask you for a piece of advice as someone watching, right? I mean, from a signing agent who's doing as much volume as you, and someone only has 12 signings, 5 signings, what would you tell them to do?
To go out there and market and just, let everyone know what you're doing. And I know, like, in your course, you always talk about like how much the escrow officers and the assistants need us. And when you're starting out, you feel like it's not that way because you need the work, you need the money, so you feel like they're doing you a favor, which they are, to take a chance on you. But at the same time, so many of my escrow officers and assistants have thanked me so much, like, oh my God, thank you so much for doing this. Like, you're like the best. Like, they don't have to worry about it when they know that I'm doing the signing. They don't have to check in. They're just so grateful that they have someone that they could count on, that's reliable, that's dependable, that knows that they're going to go above and beyond for them. So build those relationships, be that notary for someone. They have so much stuff to stress out about. They have so many things that they need to work at to get their deals closed. They don't need to worry about whether the notary is doing a good job or not. That's just not something that they need on their plate.
I think people think that I'm lying when I tell them there's a shortage of reliable notary signing agents. They're like, oh, Mark, you just say that because you're trying to sell a course. And I'm like, no, you just hit it on the nail. Like, they can rely on you. And the reason you're able to get into the title offices is because there is a shortage of good notaries. It would have been harder for you to scale had there been a trillion reliable notary signing agents. They're just not. It's just working through being uncomfortable and getting out there and saying, getting your name spread and getting out there, So let's talk about that a little bit. Like, you had a moment of like, okay, cool. If it's meant to be, it's up to me. I got to go. Would you kind of label yourself as an introvert or an extrovert?
I go between both. But when I'm around people, I'm an extrovert. I like to talk.
My question is, does marketing necessarily come easy to you like some people?
No.
Okay, cool.
I think it is.
Yeah. Okay. So because marketing does come easy to most people, and so what I'm asking is for a little bit of help for those students who also where marketing does come easy. Talking to somebody doesn't come easy. What makes you push through your nerves? Like, what's the mindset? Is what I'm trying to dig into. Is like, okay, you're like, I'm gonna go have a conversation. This is gonna suck, but I got to do it, right? what is the self-talk? What is the conversation? How do you get through those nerves to help somebody else who's like, okay, Liz, I get it. No one's going to know my name if I don't tell them. And so how do you push yourself through the nerves to go have conversations with people, you don't have that don't know you're a signing agent?
Yeah. That one's a little bit tough. I kind of do a lot of self-talk when I catch myself saying like, oh, like you don't know enough or you're going to say something wrong. Just kind of try to identify where that's coming from, and shut it down. So just like, oh, like you're stupid, like they're not going to like you. Be like, how do you know they're not going to like me? They might like me, they might need me. At the end of the day, they're all people. I know that they're busy. Like that's kind of hard too when you go in there and market and the office is hectic and you kind of try to find a way in. I just drop off goodies, drop off my postcards. If I have an opportunity to talk to someone, I always make friends with the receptionist because they're usually the ones that are going to be, giving them all the information.
So what I heard is, shutting it down. I love your, I love it. I mean, that's as eloquent as you can put it. Like when you start having those negative feelings, self-doubt talks probably better to say is, I'm not good enough, and you just shut it down. And what I like that you said is like, you experience those. I think there's a misnomer that successful signing agents like you don't have the self-doubt talks or the self-doubt thoughts, excuse me. That, marketing just must be so easy. They must be so confident that they just think everyone's going to use them. But you're here to say that, in your case, that's not true. Like you have those like, oh my gosh, but you just know you got to get through those. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I still have even the escrow officers that I have right now, like they'll recommend me and that's how I get more business. But even working with other offices from the same title company and trying to build those new relationships with new escrow officers, it still gets kind of nerve-wracking. So you just have to find a place to connect and come from a place of service and just be there for them whenever they need you.
Oh my God. Okay. I hope everyone just rewind what you just said. You got to come from a place of service. That's the loan signing system way. I think a lot of signing agents feel like getting a signing is very transactional. I want a signing from you because I want to make money.
Yeah.
Versus what you just said, come from a place of connecting, come from a place of service. And that's the loan signing system way. And I'm so proud of you, girl. Everything you're saying, I'm so proud of you. But I hope everybody heard that because that's the mindset, right? It wasn't like how many signings can I get? It is how can I be of service? You're providing value, you're giving value. That's when everything changes. So I hope everybody heard that it's not a transaction. She's trying to provide service. Wow. What an amazing conversation so far. Okay, cool. Let's transition because you're giving so much fire. Let's drop one other piece of fire. And that is, I ask every successful signing agent because Liz, you are, what's one piece of advice? If like just one piece, like your best friend's that girl, I'm going to be a signing agent. And you're like, okay, I need you to hear me on this. This is the one piece of advice to help you with your business. What would your one piece of advice be?
I would say don't compare your journey, your days to anybody else's.
Keep talking deeper because I think thank you again for being vulnerable. I think a lot of people get in the comparison game, which I think I always say comparison is the thief of joy. Mm-hmm. But talk through that more. So what I'm hearing is a signing agent who once compared to her journey to others. I'm guessing on that, by the way, but my point is dig deeper on that because I think it's a really good topic because I think a lot of signing agents fall victim to that.
Yeah, it's hard sometimes when you go on the Facebook group and you see how some people, like I was on there the other day and someone already has, I think like 30 or 40 signings for April and I don't have anything yet. So it's very easy for me to look at that and be like, oh, like I don't have anything yet. Like I need to go out there. I need to hustle some more. Granted, I have 163 for this month. So like I'll be totally fine if I don't. But just don't compare it. It's easy for you to kind of feel bad for yourself or kind of feel like it's not going to work out for you if you see other people's success and you kind of feel like you should be at the same place. And you're not, because you never know how much work that person puts in. You never know what type of relationship that person has with their escrow officers or how they book their stuff out. A lot of my stuff, I'll have 2 signings for a day and then I'll end it with 14 signings for that day because it's a lot of like last minute stuff. So it's frustrating. This job's hard enough going out there, building it on your own and making yourself available in marketing. Then to add that extra stress of looking at someone else's success and feeling bad for yourself that you're not there yet.
Well, I mean, first off, I'm so thankful of your vulnerability in this. The fact that, you're doing 163 closings and you still find yourself comparing yourself to other people. So, you know, no matter what level of success you have as a signing agent, everybody kind of has their kryptonite, right? It's kind of like their moments of like, oh my gosh, what are they doing? But like I said, you find ways to talk yourself out of it. Like, stop doing that, girl. Like, your journey's great. Your journey's fine. I'm doing great. I have 163. So I appreciate your vulnerability that you do compare yourself to other students, but also at the same moment, when you do, you kind of slap yourself on the wrist, say, Liz,
Yeah.
take a step back. And so I appreciate that honesty and transparency, that, you know, you still fall victim to the very advice you're giving others, because like you said, there's enough other stresses on building a business, and the unnecessary stress of like comparing yourself to the Joneses does nobody any good, including you, right? And so I appreciate that. But there's something you said, I wrote this down, is that you start off with signing a day with 2 closings and you end with 14. Are you telling me you've had a day where you've done 14 signings in one day?
That was the most I did. It was last week, Thursday. I think I didn't eat till 9 o'clock at night.
I'd say that again.
I said I didn't eat till 9 o'clock at night because I was just back to back and I forgot. So
14 signings in one day. I am telling you, Liz, if you can build this business, do you think anybody can?
I 100% believe that everybody can. I
Why
tell
do you-
everyone about it. I've had a lot of friends sign up for the course, so you just kind of have to wait and see what their journey turns out to be.
Let me ask you a kind of a deeper question: is why do you think anyone could build this business?
Well, like, I just think that it depends on how much work you put in there. It's not a difficult business. It's something where you just have to have a lot of faith in what you learn, ask questions, be vulnerable, come from a place of service. It's not a difficult job. It's a difficult process to trust yourself to do the job.
Wow.
That's the hard part. Like, a lot of my friends that have their 9 to 5 jobs and they see what I'm doing, they see what I'm making, and they feel like they could accomplish that, but they kind of hold on to that job. I believe my last job did help me get to the place where I am now, because at my last job, I was scared to get fired every day I went in. And that's the thing where people are like, well, I need my job because I need that steady paycheck. I'm like, yeah, that's not a steady paycheck. You could literally be fired tomorrow. And if COVID-19 taught us anything, where like half the world was laid off, doing your own business, you only have yourself to blame. The way that I look at it is, if this goes away, I could turn around and get 40 other jobs. I've had 40. I could, that's not the hard part. The hard part is getting started, believing in yourself, putting in the work, and just watching it grow.
I again, I'm just like, that what you said, the biggest difficulty is the difficulty of believing in yourself. Wow. Like, it's like the second time it's going to hang up, and that great call. I mean, honestly, that was a beautiful line, because that it really is. It's like, it's you stepping out on faith. The biggest part, I think, to tell your journey a little bit better, I think the most difficult thing is holding yourself accountable. When you told us that when you only had 12 closings and you said that was my fault, I only had 12 closings, that is probably one of the hardest things to do as a human, because you have to say, I failed me.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that you are doing that, and the fact that you can hold yourself accountable, and what I think was lost in that saying of I failed me, or it's my fault, is believing that you're capable of more, right? So some people see 12 and go, oh, well, that's all I'm good at. That's all I can do. You said, dude, I did 12. I know I can do 40 or 163, but it's that difficulty of believing yourself. Instead of going back and running back to your full-time job, you doubled down on your effort because you believed you could build this business. And that's beautiful. And I think that's what's lost when people hear somebody say, it's my fault I only did 12. What you're really saying is, I know I'm capable of more. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the unsaid phrase when you say, oh, it's my fault I only got 12. What you're really saying is, I know I'm capable of more. So let me put in more work. Let me tell more people. And so that is, I don't want that being lost, because I love your phrase. The difficult part is the difficulty of believing in yourself. And that's what successful signing agents understand, is I'm capable of it. And that's why you know that anyone can build this business, is once they believe they can build it, then they can build it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. Fire it all the way around, girl. Okay. So let's end. By the way, this is a Sunday. Thank you so much for spending some time with me and
Sure.
sharing this. So hopefully we inspire someone else. So let's kind of get to that last question that I always ask, is there are some people, I always ask successful signing agents, what is something you would tell young signing agent Liz? Like what's something you wish you would have done in the beginning of your process that you're now at? Like, man, if I just would have done this earlier, X would be different. X would be better. X would scale more. What's that for your business? What you wish you would have told young Liz?
For me, it would be staying organized. Right now, I'm still playing catch up with a lot of my tax paperwork, with my expenses and all that stuff, which is causing stress right now in this period of time. So I wish I would have stayed on top of it and kept better records, and just kind of like wrote down my experience as I went, to remember how it was like in that beginning part.
Oh, I love that. I think you're like the 57th interview I've done, and I've never heard the journaling of your experience. I think it's beautiful, by the way. I think that's a really cool idea. Because what I tell you students is, it's all about the journey, right? And sometimes we forget the journey and we
Yep.
forget how good we have it because you forget how bad you had it. Right.
Mhm.
And so if you would kind of journal like, look, I did 0 signings on this Tuesday, 1 year ago, the day that you have 2 signings, maybe you're more appreciative because there were days where you had 0. Oh my gosh. I think that's
Yep.
such a good idea. If you can journal your experience just to have more appreciation of the current moment more than anything else. Wow. That was fire. I've never heard. It's awesome. But I think the organization one is a really key point. So if there's any signing agents who are starting out this process, I think, especially during tax season, but not even tax season, right? It's not only should being organized apply to taxes, it should also apply to, your follow-up process. Who have you gratituded to? Who have you talked to? Who do you need to follow up with? So staying organized, I think, is a really good macro something to tell a young signing agent is, organization on all aspects of your business. I think is a beautiful, beautiful thing, or a piece of advice also to give signing agents. Look, Liz, fire girl. Thank you. This has inspired me to do more of these. I've been so busy with small business organization, all the other stuff, that some of these have almost kind of fell to the wayside. So you've inspired me to get back on the horse and share some of these amazing stories. We have so many to share. So on the way out, I'm going to let you have the last word. There's going to be signing agents all over the spectrum watching this, right? Brand new ones to Robin Schmidt, who still watches every single one, right? And she's one of our most successful students. So my point is, we're going to have signing agents all across the board. Is there any just piece of advice, words of encouragement that you would want to give anybody? Maybe someone's watching this right now on YouTube is thinking about joining the industry. Is there anything on the way out where you just want to inspire somebody with some words, because you've been dropping so much fire? Anything on the way out that you want to kind of add that you haven't mentioned?
Yeah, just take a chance on yourself. Take a chance on something better for your life. Take a chance on doing something that could give you the financial freedom that it gave me. And you got to kind of check yourself too. When all those bad things start coming into your mind and you start thinking that you can't do it, just kind of check yourself and find out where that's coming from. Because a lot of times it's something that you heard growing up or something that you were constantly told, and prove it wrong. Get mad and prove everyone else wrong, and do it for yourself.
I'm going to end with that. Thank you so much for taking some time today, girl. I'll see you at conference.
Yep.
And just for the record, I'm excited to announce that Liz is the new ambassador for the state of Nevada for the loan signing system. So if you thought this was amazing, she's going to support all Nevada students. Now I think you have an insight on the way she thinks, the way she's going to encourage you to be great. So if you're in Nevada, join her group. It's available to all LSS students and non-LSS students. But Liz, I think you've given an example of your vulnerability today. I think you've given an example of your work ethic, your mindset. So you are literally the perfect person to be an ambassador for the loan signing system for the state of Nevada. So thank you for selflessly giving your time to help other signing agents build their business.
Thank you so much, Mark. I really appreciate it.
All right, girl. I'll see you soon. Bye.